What's up, world? This is Mig with NFT Stories, back for another video. As always, you know I have my co-host Novo with me. Novo, what's going on, buddy?
Welcome, all my aliens, apes, and zombies. Man, I'm fired up. We got Gmoney in the house.
Yes, sir. So a very, very special show. A very close friend of the show is joining us tonight. And when we say welcome all aliens, apes, and zombies, Gmoney, if you don't know, he's got one of the most famous apes in the whole CryptoPunk galaxy. And we're excited to have him on the show. He's been a really, really influential evangelist of the CryptoPunk community and of the NFT space in general. He's been a really big pioneer in terms of opening his arms and helping bring in traditional artists like close friend of the show, Justin Aversano. And man, we are excited to talk with him here tonight. Gmoney, welcome, man. How are you doing?
What's up, guys? I'm super excited to be here. How are you?
We're good, man. Very good. Thank you for joining us, brother. And tonight we're super excited because we're actually going to be unveiling something pretty cool. So everybody knows Novo. He's got the 5 trait with the hidden earring, with the tassels and the clown nose, and he always has the snap lens or the AR filter that he's rocking. But Gmoney, we noticed that everybody knows you by your Twitter avatar with your ape, but we felt like we really wanted to bring you into the third dimension, right? And really, really take it 360. So we want to unveil something for the people that's really special. Gmoney, when you feel like it, when you're ready, why don't you go ahead and just drop that on them and let them see the manifestation.
All right, let's do this. Let's go. Let's go.
Yes,
I love
sir.
it.
So this is history in the making, man. So tell me, why don't you guys, the two of you kind of made this happen. How did you guys get to talking? Take me back. I know Novo, that Gmoney, he's been sort of a big influence on you, becoming, to really strengthen your bond with the CryptoPunk community. But how did we get here today from those early days?
For me, it started with the famous tweet, about relating a Rolex to the real world. And, it just really struck home with me. And it was someone that I just really wanted to collaborate with. So I started following him. He started following me. Next thing you know, hey, how about you rock it a little bit? Let's see those laser eyes again there, Gmoney.
Yeah, let's go. Dude, I love it. I love it. You reached out to me and you were like, dude, like, how would you love one of these avatars, right? Like in 3D, because, we're in 2021 here, right? Everybody's on Zoom, everybody's on Google Meets, and usually I have my profile picture up. But this is awesome. This is gonna change my meetings, take it to a whole new level, And
that's so awesome.
Gmoney, can you paraphrase and kind of remind folks or folks that aren't familiar, what was your sort of thesis in this when you bought your ape and you kind of went on Twitter and explained your rationale? What can you summarize that for everybody at home?
Yeah, for sure. So, what ended up happening was in pretty much like a year ago, on the first day of quarantine last year, I bought a PlayStation. I played a video game. I hadn't played one in 10 years, right? So I download Fortnite. I start playing Fortnite with my friends and their nephews. And these kids are like 10, 11, 12 years old. And they're like, hey, what skins did you buy? I'm like, skins? I'm like, do they give me any special powers? They're like, no. I'm like, all right, that's stupid. I'm not buying any skins. Fast forward like 2 or 3 weeks, I'm buying like every skin. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'm just spending hundreds of dollars on skins. And at the time, I didn't know what an NFT was. And it wasn't until like the fall when like I started really like going down the rabbit hole on NFTs, and I spent more time on these different Discords. And I realized that, holy shit, like my skin in crypto is my avatar for Twitter, for Discord, and for Telegram, right? So like, how can, and then I equated it to like, sometimes like when I play the game, so like sometimes me and my friends will be attacking this group of other players. And then we start running the other way because we realize that they have OG skins, which means they're really good, which means they're going to kill us. So we just start running the other way, right? And I was like, wow, like, humans are so visual, right? Because like, if we were all to meet right now, and in the real world, and we meet at a restaurant or whatever, and we sit down and I'm like, hey, I'm Gmoney. I make this much money per year and I drive a Lamborghini. You're like, that's weird. Like you're trying too hard. That's just not how humans interact. But if I walk in with a really nice watch and I get out of a really nice car, I'm telling you the same thing without having to tell you anything, which is how humans communicate and how we all interact with each other, right? So then, like, once I started realizing that, and then I put everything together in the same vein, I was like, oh, like just because we're digital doesn't necessarily mean we're going to interact any differently, right? So we're all still going to try to signal social status, however we plan on doing it. And that's kind of like that was my thesis for buying punks, right? And I took it and I ran with it, and I like to think that I threw a ton of gasoline on the fire. And I think this was something that was going to be inevitable to happen. But I think I with that tweet, because I know when I bought the punk, because at the time it was the highest notional USD value, and people were like, "Oh, you're an idiot! Like I can't believe you spent this much and all this stuff." And then here we are, like 2-3 months later, and people are spending $7-8 million on punks, and nobody's batting an eye at this point.
Right. So that's an awesome story, and that was literally just a few months ago, right? Like,
it was like January 8th, I think, was when I bought the ape. I bought a zombie in early December, and I was like looking for an ape. I was like stalking for an ape or an alien, although like at that point an alien was out of my price range. But because when I got into punks, I only wanted to put a certain amount towards them. So when I bought the ape, I was like, oh man, I'm like, this is way over my allotment, but I thought it was a good value.
So how validating does it feel like when you start to see, like people in Gary Vee's circle, or I saw, like, I think there's like now an assistant coach for the Kansas City Chiefs has a punk as his avatar, and you're starting to see, and Novo, I forget the sort of the Instagram celebrity that you reference occasionally, but we're starting to see like the tier of celebrities kind of graduate in terms of who's really adopting this sort of social symbol on social media that you're describing. So how has that been validating to you, and where do you see that going, let's say in the next 3, 6, 9 months?
So it feels awesome, because it's like, when I bought the punk, I specifically remember I was like, oh man, because I paid the top, right? So I was like, oh man, did I pay the top? And then a couple of days later, Bitcoin pulled back from 40,000 to 30,000. So I was like, oh man, like this is scary, right? Because nobody ever wants to be the greatest fool, right? So for a couple, I think it was like about a week until the alien traded and Flamingo bought it. I was like, I was questioning myself, because I'm like, am I too early? Like, did I pick the right project? Like, did I totally understand it? And once Flamingo did that purchase for the alien, I was like, oh man, like that to me was all the validation I needed, right? Because there you have, and that actually got me to join Flamingo right after, was because here's a group of like-minded individuals that saw NFTs in the same way that I did. And, it wasn't just one person, it was a group of, I think it was like 50 or 60 people that were like, yes, let's buy this alien, right? So, like to me now, like when I see more and more people, it's like, the value prop, the way I see it is like, I feel like I've already had the validation after that sale. After that purchase, I was like, okay, I was right. And now it's just a matter of how right, how high is it going to go? And now, like when I bring people into NFTs, I feel like I always start with punks, because if I can convince you, if I can help you understand why punks have value, then how far you want to go down the rabbit hole is up to you, right? If you want to start looking at like Beeple stuff, you want to start looking at like art blocks or whatever, right? Like it's all varying degrees of what you like and what you find value in, right? But if I try to go with something really deep down that maybe not everybody totally appreciates, it's going to be a much harder conversation to have. So that's why I was like, punks, like people get punks. It's literally your skin on Twitter, your profile picture. on Instagram. Like everybody knows, everybody understands that concept, right? So
Right.
that was like, that's kind of where I saw it. Like where I see it going now is, I think it's just going more and more for mass adoption, right? Like to your point is like you're seeing more and more mainstream people use punks as their avatars, right? And I think that number that's only going to increase as there's greater awareness made about punks. And it's like it's like a Rolex watch, right? It's like people know what the brand is, right? So people know when you have this 8-bit picture as your profile, like they're like, oh, that's a punk, that like that's valuable.
Right. I saw you retweet, and I forget the number of the punk, but I think it's there's an ape with a bandana that has like his whole collection. I think he was the one, or he or they were the one that kind of was stating a similar thesis, and they were also starting to talk about how this bullishness for punks that'll trickle down to other sort of avatar type of NFTs. And I think you might have retweeted it and said like well spoken or well said or something like that. I'm wondering, if punks are the tip of the spear, do you have any other sort of very avatar centric projects like Avastars or anything like that you might point beginners to, or folks that aren't really in a position to splurge on a punk right now?
Yeah, so I think you would probably look at Hashmass, although they haven't been around that long. Probably Avastars, like there's also some on-chain significance there, right? It's fully on-chain. And they're, obviously both those are much cheaper than punks are. But I think we're still really, really early in this cycle of people using digital avatars, just because the space hasn't matured yet, right? So I think you're gonna get like the same way that you get like these subgroups in the real world where maybe some people like heavy metal music and other people like rap music and other people like punk music, and they all dress accordingly, right, to whatever like works for them. I think you're going to have the same thing with projects where it's like these people that like this specific thing are going to use this type of avatar, right, because this is what it says about them, right? Like and that's kind of like, what does punk say about me, right? Like usually, right, people, I think when I was in Discord and I was spending all this time with these different people, I noticed that the people that were the most knowledgeable, that have been around the longest and that have done the best, all had punks, and like they were like, oh dude, and like they saw me, like I was originally, when I got into NFTs, I wasn't even looking at punks because I wanted to buy the next punks, which I think is what a lot of people do when they come in. And I remember like people, like, because everybody was, involved in like the different projects, and like, oh, you need a zombie, bro. Like you should definitely buy a zombie. And I'm like, oh no, like, they're too expensive. At the time, I bought my zombie for $20,000. And like, at the time I was like, oh man, this is really expensive. But once I understood the story, I was like, oh, okay. Like, I get it, And I think that that's what you're going to see, where it's like these different niches of people are going to congregate around these projects that they find valuable, right? So it's like, if you're into whatever that says about you, and you make that your avatar, that, your people will find you because of that. And like, you kind of see that right now with punks, where, I think I saw something today where somebody was like, I think somebody changed their avatar from punks to something else, and their engagement went down, right? Because
I saw that, and they had the stats for it and how many people that stopped clicking and they did the same exact tweet. That was awesome.
Yeah. And like, it's one of those things too, is like, I know as a punk, like I will do a double take on, if somebody has a punk as their avatar, I'll like, I'll probably read it a little more carefully, or I'll be like, oh, okay, like let's see what ideas does this person have, right? I'll go through their Twitter feed to see, to see what their ideas are, right, and their thoughts are. So, but like it's like a social proof, And to your point, is like,
it's exactly what it is. It's a social proof of stake, And when Mig started, it was the ape owner 4156 that put it very excellently. That stated that Discord builds that proof of stake within the community, and that's what makes it so valuable. That's why we're walking around or talking with these AR filters right here. It's like, for me, and I explained it to Mig one time. It's like almost putting rims on your nice car. It's something that you invested in. You want to build that asset. You have fun doing it with your friends. And at the end of the day, you're following some of the best, smartest people in the world behind some of the best projects in the world.
Yeah. And to build on that point too, it's like, if I were to, put my regular picture of like who I am, like nobody would recognize me, right? So it's like we're building these like personas of who we are. It's who we are as a person, but it's just like this different, it's just a different skin, right? So it's like, I've had so many friendships and I've done so many like 6 and 7 figure deals with people that I haven't even met in real life. I don't know that like their real name, and I maybe spoke to them on the phone once, which is crazy, right? Because when you think about it, and there was no contract involved, and like to me, that's like that makes me super bullish on not just blockchain, but just on humanity in general, right? Where you turn on the news and you always hear these negative things going on, and like whatever kind of wow factor they can get to get you to turn on the news and watch the news right there. But like when you see people interacting on like a Discord and they're coming together, and like even us, right? Like none of us, we spoke on the phone I think once, right, before this, but we interact all the time through Twitter, through Discord, through different chats, through DMs. So it's like, but we don't know each other's real names, right? So I think that's amazing, right? It's to that point, it's like I love that concept of social proof of stake, right? Because you are your reputation, right?
That's awesome. Sometimes because I'm pretty forthcoming with like my name is my name, and sometimes I wondered like, are people thinking about hacking concerns and security concerns? And the other day I thought about it. I was like, I bet a lot of them, they don't want their wives to know, that they like that they bought this or that. That's just a joke. I'm just joking around, but I do want to give a quick plug for anybody out there that is a punk owner, or if you're an Ava Stars owner, or if you're a Hash Mask owner, or anything like that. And if you want to put, as Novo said, if you want to put some rims on your vehicle, right? Hit us up at NFT Stories on Twitter. Go to our Discord server, because we can help you guys. If you want to get one of these Snapchat lenses, one of these filters like Novo and Gmoney have, search us out on Discord. If you're having trouble, because Discord is not the easiest user experience sometimes, find us on Twitter. We'll hook you up. And I want to ask you, Gmoney, kind of piggybacking off Novo's analogy of putting rims on a car, and with the ape, was it 4-1? What was that number, Novo?
4156.
I don't want to say the wrong one and then give out the wrong ape.
But kind of my point is just to illustrate like that punk owner is clearly saying they have a strategy, I think, of how they're going to monetize their punk, right? And it's paid big dividends in the form of like Beeple, portraying their punk in a piece of art, similar to the alien that Flamingo DAO purchased. That was portrayed by Beeple. Do you have like do you think about that in those similar terms of like how you're trying to monetize your punk? And are there any specific like things that you've got coming up that you think of in that same way of putting rims on sort of your vehicle?
So I think it's interesting. So when I bought my punk, my ape, I was like, all right, I'm gonna build a brand around this, because like I felt like I was seeing things like that people weren't seeing yet at the time. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna start like a Twitter thread, right? Or a Twitter account. And I went from like 10 or 25 users to 15,000 in like 2 months. And a lot of it was because of people were like catching on to NFTs, and they were seeing like my thoughts, and I wasn't just like looking at where the puck is, I was looking at where the puck is going, right? And so I think because I come from a traditional finance background, I was seeing NFTs like really differently than most, right? Because I think a lot of guys really early in the space are more creators, and they're artistic, and they have all these ideas for different projects they want to do. But I was kind of seeing as like, all right, cool. Like because I also, when I realized that everything in the world is an NFT, I was like, at some point, everything is going to come on chain, right? So I want to be involved in that, right? So I've been investing in different projects as an angel, advising on a couple different projects that, not everything's announced yet, but those things will be coming out pretty soon. Just people with builders and creators that I'm like, all right, I like what this guy's doing, and I want to be involved there, right? And so that to me is what I find amazingly interesting. Besides just like disrupting the art and collectibles world, right? Because that's just the first industry that I think is going to get disrupted, and I think we're going to see over the next couple of years, just like industry after industry get disrupted.
Awesome. Well, it's great to hear that perspective, especially coming from a traditional finance background. Novo and I were just talking the other day. We in this space, you have like creatives and traditional finance backgrounds and tech and crypto folks all merging together, and it's a really cool just a melting pot of different cultures and backgrounds and experiences. So Gmoney, it's always a pleasure speaking with you. I feel like in our brief conversations, I've learned a lot both times that we've spoken. So thank you so much for being so generous with your time tonight. Your lens looks awesome. If anybody out there is looking for one, hit us up on Twitter or Discord at NFT Stories. And Gmoney, any parting thoughts before we call it a night?
No, just keep on collecting and keep on helping creators make cool stuff. If you find something by a creator that you love, buy it and support them, and that's how you keep getting cool things.
Yes, sir. All right, Novo, any final thoughts from you, brother?
You know what I always like to say, stay positive and love life.
Yes, sir. And we will see you guys on the next one. Peace out.